Utah was host to one of the more frightening serial killers in the United States, Robert Ben Rhoades. The FBI at one time, through the Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, suggested that Rhoades might be responsible for as many as 300 homicides across the United States. I thought it might be interesting for you just to see how many places this person traveled, because as we talk about this idea of how our effectiveness has decreased from 1960 through today, we need to keep in mind the mobility of today's offenders. So think about Robert Ben Rhoades. Here's his arrest at the Millard County Sheriff's Office. He was later convicted of a sister murder to that from Texas, in which the bullet slugs from a female victim in Millard County were matched to a man and woman who were murdered along a freeway in Texas. Here we see in 1984 Robert Ben Rhoades travel across the United States in purple. He had a very small route, but he still covered a great area. In fact, from Mississippi, Oklahoma, and into Texas. By 1988, his travels had extended all the way down into the southern Florida parts and up to the base of the Great Lakes. In 1989, his travels took him all the way up the west coast into the Seattle, Washington area, and as far northeast as up into Ohio. Again, each yellow point that you see on this map is a place where eventually he was at one point at a truck stop. By 1990, he was all over the United States, including several trips up into the Salt Lake City area. And then when focusing in a very small period of time, we see from Houston over into the very east end of the Florida Panhandle, where he spent a great deal of time. Now, the thing that's interesting is, let's look at the last known location of missing people during the time in which Rhoades was traveling throughout the United States. And again, if you think about that number, there are thousands of people who come up, 104 plus thousand every year who come up missing. These were locations of women who fit the profile that was consistent with the type of victims and victimology that Rhoades selected. If we then take, with the black points on the map, add in all of the truck stops where Robert Ben Rhoades was during this same period of time, we can start to now geographically examine some things, including, we know of 3 homicides that he committed. The first, down here in the Texas Houston area, a girl named Regina Walters. Her body was discovered up here in Illinois. And in this area of Texas, a young couple was abducted and murdered, and their bodies later recovered. But the interesting thing was, in the state of Utah, in Millard County, right here, we also had a woman who was found off to the side of the road. And in examining the slugs in this victim's body compared to the victims in Texas, they were the same slug. So then we examined Rhoades' travel patterns, and this is a graphic example of where he traveled throughout the United States. So again, keep in mind, often law enforcement looks at crime geographically when the offenders are much more mobile today than at any time in our history.